Oh, all right. I guess we're live now. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another fun episode of the Tim and Tim Show for Making Moves in Multifamily Live. This week, we're talking about the conference where we're at last weekend. Making moves. Not making moves. My first million in multifamily, MFMIM. Man, that was a great event. What do you think about it?
I thought it was great. I hadn't been since their first year. I think you went last year, but I had not been since their first year. And I'll tell you one of the things that I really, really liked about it. Huge shout out to Jennings and Yaden. Is over the last year we went to a bunch of events that we had been to before, and the general consensus was the numbers were down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jennings, Jaden, great job, because this was way bigger than the last time I was there.
I even made a little joke, because you and I presented. I even made a little, hey, I thought we were going to be in the small room again, but we got upgraded to the big conference room now.
they were taking up 3 sections.
Yeah, right.
So man, I got to give them props, man. They've built a nice community, and and one of the things I'll say about it is, I like communities that no matter how big they get, they still feel, I don't know, cozy. Mm-hmm. And their community definitely feels cozy, right? It still feels like it's a group of folks that know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah, a lot of props to them. I really enjoyed the event.
Yeah. I think you said like Mike Ely's event is kind of like that for you too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I go to 2 there, right? I go to Mike's, and then I go to Nate's, Burr 360. The Burr 360 is a little bit larger, but it still seems to be like a group of people who all know each other. They have a pretty good online community, which I think Jennings and Yaden do as well. Folks tend to keep in touch and communicate through that means. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it feels like much more genuine community, right? It's not you go to a lot of big name events, and it's t-shirt gun, come run to the back of my course, buy my book, buy my course on discount today only, like that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's just a sea of people that you have no idea who anybody is, right? You've never seen any of these people, and also, the entry point is like what, $100. It's really, the entry point is really not that much money. So they're going for quantity instead of quality. But Jennings event is a little more expensive. I don't, full disclosure, I didn't pay to go there because Tim and I were speakers, so we didn't pay. I don't know what he was charging for tickets, but I feel like the cost of his ticket is definitely going to be more expensive because, they had breakfast, they had, a VIP dinner, they had lunch and dinner on the main event day. So like all the food and stuff was included. So, it's definitely more expensive, but the quality was there, which was really nice.
Yeah. And I thought, Tim, kind of like what you're talking about is, you go to some of these events, and it's, it's like a big sales pitch. Everybody that gets up there, it's like a sales pitch. And, one of the things I really appreciated about it was I didn't really feel sold while I was there. There were guys up there presenting. They were just offering insights, offering what they do. There was one that spoke to me a little bit because it's kind of how I got my start. Somebody was there talking about land flips, how to do land.
Yeah.
And he's as he's up there talking, it's like, I didn't really remember him like, hey, I got a program, come invest in my program. No, I may have missed that part. As he's talking through it, I'm like, I clearly know what you're doing. I clearly understand how you're doing it. And I appreciate you introducing, folks to that. And as someone who had been doing that for a while, I'm like, it's legit. Like, I remember doing exactly what he was talking about. Right.
Did it bring up a little bit of agita for you though?
It's like I tell a lot of people, if I had stuck to exactly what he did, I would have been fine. It's when I went that second step, I went a step further, which, that's why I always tell folks, I wish I'd have had a mentor back then, because a mentor might've looked at me and said, why are you doing this second piece? Like, it's not necessary. And, And, had I not done the second piece, I would have had almost no risk. I probably would have made it through '08 and '09 unscathed.
Hmm.
You
You'd be
know,
in a lot different position right now.
oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Man, yeah, man, I love going to that event, and we don't do a lot of events like that anymore.
Right.
We do, we are going to the IMN Miami, and I did sign you up for the IMN Atlanta. So if that's not on your calendar, make sure you put it on there. But I really like those events too, because it's kind of a different atmosphere. Like you have to own and operate property to be there or have some level of service or something. Like you have to prove that you own real estate, right, to be there. It's not like
Yeah.
uh it's a gathering of the minds, right? So you and I have been on panels before. I'm leading a panel at the Miami one next week. So it's like, it's really true insights from other operators and people in the industry doing what you're doing, right? So it's a completely different thing. But there are other events out there that are targeted towards, beginning investors and newer investors, and they all have their place. All of them have their place because everyone started at a certain point in time at zero. And I really give Jennings credit for what he put together in a community, because he actually talked about it on stage. Was he looked at all of these other communities, and people always talk about how uh, they become the bottleneck, right? Because you join this group and they want you to pay. Like I had a conversation literally with somebody yesterday and said, I paid $40,000 to be part of this group. And it was sold to me as join my group and I'll sponsor your loan and get this deal done and blah, 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 blah. But now, this individual becomes the bottleneck. And Jennings was like, no, like I'm not here to build something for me to cherry pick the best deals out of. I'm here to build a community of people that are doing deals with each other and by themselves or, whatever. And the statistic that he put up there was in his group, his paid group, 76 deals were closed in 2023. And he's like, I only did 2, maybe 3. But he's like, the community that we've built is different because I'm not the bottleneck. Like, I don't advertise that I'm going to sponsor your loan. I'm not going to look at your deal. I'm not going to raise your money. I don't advertise any of that stuff. But he was like, what I do advertise is that you're going to plug into a community of people that are actually doing deals and looking to build valuable relationships with each other in the space. And it can't be more true, because you go there and it feels like a family environment. I mean, for God's sakes, Jennings and Yadens and his sister Crystal works with him. Their whole family from Somerville was there. All of his kids, their parents, and family members and sisters, like they're all there, right? So it's very heartwarming environment. And it's just very genuine. And I really love that event. It really kind of starts my year off really, really well. And it reminds me of like, hey, this is why I do this thing. I provide a lot of value and people provide a lot of value to me. And I'm just here to help the community grow.
Yeah, it was really cool. I didn't realize like their entire family was going to be there. Like I'm standing there talking to somebody, and Jennings' dad walks up,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, I got this property. I want to talk to you about like should I do this to it?" And it's something Tim and I had presented on, and it just shows you, right? Like these guys are doing it. Their families are doing it. And that kind of rings true to Tim and me, because like Tim and I talk about, like, Tim, I think you had a post on it the other day, man. Like our families invest in our deals. Tim's
Yeah.
brothers invest. I think is your brother
My
invested?
brother, my dad, my
Yeah.
aunt, my grandparents, everybody.
Yeah. So, and I have family members tell my daughter is invested in some of my deals, or at least one of them. And that rings true to us, right? Like, your
Hmm.
family is doing this alongside you. And, you know, makes it a little extra motivation, right?
Oh, totally.
Makes it hard to just walk away from a deal. Makes you kind of double down. You got
I
to
would
work a
say
little bit
it
harder.
doesn't make it hard. It makes it impossible to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
It makes it impossible to walk away from it and be like, sorry, I lost your money. Can't wait to see you at Thanksgiving.
Uh, that's it's funny you say that, because one of our favorite brokers, one of the first deals I ever tried to do, I was like, why are these guys selling it like this? And he was like, yeah, I'll just tell you, it's going to be a difficult Thanksgiving at that guy's family this year.
Yeah,
So,
that's funny.
uh, yeah. So, but no, I thought the event was great. Yeah, I Yeah, I think one of the reasons I brought up the whole growth thing is, I was starting to think, based on some of these events that we had been to and seeing like the numbers going down, I thought that maybe things had started to settle down. Maybe things were dying a little bit
Hmm.
in terms of just the community trying to do deals. And I don't think that's the case. I think people are starting to recognize value is kind of what I walked away with. I think folks are starting to realize like, okay, these are the groups that are doing things. This is where I need to be. And I think that's part of what maybe we saw. Um, give me a little extra boost of energy and hope for 2024.
Yeah, I
You
think,
know,
the rah-rah boom and bust over the last couple of years, everyone's moved on to I mean, that's been a huge topic of conversation. I mean, look at LinkedIn lately. It's like, people bashing people left and right about doing deals and starting funds in order to buy out their investors on a deal that's sinking. And, other people have moved on to raising money for other types of funds now. And it's, you know, I understand you have to go different places where there's yield, but I also have a different mindset based, if you read my post from yesterday, it's like we looked at this as an opportunity to triple down on what we already know and what we're good at and take advantage of opportunity as everyone's fleeting it.
yeah,
I think that's what a lot of people are starting to see. You start to see a lot less attendance at some of these events, but the people that do attend are the core people that you do want to build a relationship with.
yeah. I completely agree. One of the, you mentioned Mike and Nate earlier, and then Tim, you and I do deals with a guy that I think is a master in his niche. But the one thing I see about those guys is rather than move on to something else, what they've done is they've just gotten really, really good at what they do. Like,
That's
I,
saying an inch wide and a mile deep. Like,
yeah,
we've all heard it forever and ever and ever and ever, but
yeah,
until you get it, you really don't get it.
yeah. Like even in the last year or so, like I'll give Nate some credit, man. Like even in the last year or so, when flips got hard, Nate was still doing flips and doing
Still
really
flipping.
well because
Yeah,
he knows how to run them, and
yeah.
and one of the things that I would say about Vitaly and me is that when a lot of folks who got into this and really didn't take the time to learn how to operate deals, their deals were struggling, they were walking away and things like that. I look at it as an opportunity. I'm like, if
Mhm.
I'm a really good operator, I can get their deals at a discount and then I can operate them the right way. Right. And
And people think that that's a lie, but, like, on my drive down to Charleston, I was with somebody that's in our Making Moves coaching program, and I was like, "Watch this. I'm gonna answer this phone call from this broker." This broker called me and literally on the phone is talking about how we are the ones that have to buy this deal from these syndicators who overpaid, who didn't that they bought it during the peak, and this that and the other thing. And I looked over at him, and he's in the passenger seat, and I'm just like, dude, I told you this was happening. And I was like, I think your eyes are starting to open with the possibility and the opportunities that are coming. And I literally said on the phone, I said, if I make an offer with them holding back some level of seller financing at 0% interest, would they take it? And he said, absolutely, to save their investors capital.
yeah,
0%, 0% interest. No payment, no payments, nothing for 5 years. As long as they didn't lose money, they were okay with it. It's like, oh, well, that actually changes my perspective. Maybe I am going to look at this because now we're talking 200 units. 200 units that I can buy with somebody else's money at 0% interest. Why wouldn't I want to buy that?
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. Right. And we've seen some deals like that, right, where guys have said, "Hey, we'll keep our investors in. We'll whatever to save our investor capital." And hey guys, I'll give folks credit for that because there's a couple things you can do in that scenario, right? You can walk, and your investors are just, sorry guys, it was at risk, right? Um, or
That's
you can,
investing. It's risky. Like, well, no, I
or
trusted you to be the expert and not make it risky.
right, or you can get creative and figure out how to extend that runway, right? To give it more time, right? And because we all know, you know, long enough time in real estate, you're probably going to make money.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't 2x somebody in 5 years. Maybe you don't hit that 20 IRR. Maybe it ends up being a 9, whatever. But
Didn't lose
you
money.
didn't lose. You didn't lose.
Yep.
and you got creative and you figured out a way to keep your investors good, right? And I'll give somebody credit for that all day long.
And kind of the other side of the coin is like, as somebody that raises money, and I preach this all the time, is there have been many a time where an investor had come to me and said, I have X amount of dollars. I want to put it all into this deal. And I literally tell them no. I'm like, no, I can't, like, I'm not doing that, because I don't want to say I know better than you, but I also have a little bit more insight of this. But I was like, I've seen where deals don't always work out. And would you put all of your money in Bitcoin, or all of your money in Apple stock or Microsoft stock? No, like, you buy portions and shares and this and that, and you mitigate the risk, and you have a blended portfolio balance. And I was like, that's why it's important to have an understanding of what your goals are, and make sure you're splitting that risk out a bunch of different opportunities. And that's why I think the syndication model is beautiful, because it gives the investor, the average investor, the opportunity to take 25, 50, $100,000 chunks, spread it apart a lot
Mhm.
of different deals. And if one deal's a home run and the other one's kind of a dud that does 10%, your blended return on your portfolio, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. And then, same thing. Like whether it's honestly, whether it's a syndication, a JV, whatever, right? Like
Right.
being
There's
able
no
to
promises. Yeah.
right, and being able to spread it around.
Hmm.
That's huge. Like Tim and I operate in the Carolinas, basically the mid Atlantic down to the southeast through Mississippi and Alabama. But I've invested in a couple deals in Texas and the Midwest. Right, I'm spreading my money around as well, but it's all in real estate. So, you know, I think it's a great thing to be able to open up opportunities to folks that aren't normally there, right?
Hmm.
It's that's one of the biggest misconceptions, right? Is like I need a ton of money to invest in real estate. Not really.
Not really a
You need
ton.
some, but
Need some. Yeah. Right. Like, yeah, liquidity is not going to hurt you.
oh yeah, for sure. But so man, like I, the other thing I kind of really enjoyed about the event, getting back to that, was standing in the hall and talking to people. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
No, it's really, man, not to cut you off, but like, dude, somebody came up to me like a year ago, and they were in a really bad spot. Their
mhm.
mom had just passed away. They were going to inherit maybe about 100 grand, maybe a little more than 120 grand. And he was like, dude, like, I trust you, because like, you don't even know me, but I trust you. And he was like asking me, what should I do with this? What should I do with that? And I told him, I'm not taking your money, right? First and foremost. But I told him to educate himself and like kind of look at what opportunities was available and what he wanted to do with the money and how he could do it, and understanding risk profile and all that kind of stuff. Comes back this year, he runs up to me. I think you were standing next to me. Runs up to me and he's just like, "Tim, what's up? I'm so happy to see you. Like, I've been looking forward to this all year." And he told me he took his money from 120,000 dollars to 350 in a year.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, and now his risk profile was a little different. Like, he was, doing some like mobile home park flips, flipping of like mobile homes, not mobile home parks. I think he has a mobile home park now. He bought the land for like nothing, and he's been acquiring mobile homes and putting it on there. And I was like, look, man, see what happens when you just put the time and effort and energy into it. And really,
Yeah,
the best part about that event is like, makes me feel really good when I get to see those types of people that you end up talking to them for a couple of hours sometimes, and they actually go do something with the information you gave them, and then they come back and they're like super appreciative of the time that you spent to educate them, or hear them out and talk to them, so that they can make good decisions to grow their wealth and like change their family's trajectory.
yeah.
I
That's
love
that's
it,
really
man. I mean, that's the
that's
whole
really
point.
cool. Yeah, that's really cool. And I think you mentioned something there. That Tim and I were talking about something on the way back, and then we've had multiple conversations since then with folks who called us, because people who showed up. There were people there that were there 3 years ago, and Jennings called it out. The growth that Tim and I have had over the last couple of years, and some folks. We get asked this a lot. Like I get asked this a ton. It's like, what's your secret? What's your secret? How'd you do it? How'd you do it? And one of the things I've always told you guys is consistently showing up, always doing something, right? Always making sure you're doing something every day towards your goal. But the other piece was focus, focus. Because, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. I think Vitali had a similar conversation with somebody else. And he's like, man, I've been doing this for 4 years and I haven't I haven't made any progress. And I'm like, you know, he was like, what's your secret? And I'm like, it's really starting to dawn on me. My secret is like, I'm in multifamily. This is what I'm focused on. I really don't do anything else.
Yep.
And, I picked it. I stuck with it. It had peaks and valleys. It's had a lot of low points, but I guess I stuck with it,
Hmm.
and he even admitted, he's like, yeah, man, I was like, I started with this and I saw this over here and I tried that for a little while. Then I went over here and tried that for a little while. He's like, maybe if I just focused on one thing and just stuck with it no matter what. And I'm like, there's something to be said for that. Um,
Yeah, I'm in the process of reading Dan Sullivan's 10x is easier than 2x. And
mhm.
it was like the first couple of pages was talking about why 10x is easier. And ultimately, I think 10x is easier for you and I because we only focus on one thing, right? We say, okay, well, this is what we want to achieve. And then the whole principle of that book by Dan Sullivan is like, okay, well, if you focus on 2x, you're just going to be grinding and doing more of what you're doing to increase your income or increase your portfolio, increase whatever you're trying to do, right? But he phrases it in such a way, and it was very profound. I mean, literally read this part last night, and he was like, he asked the question to somebody. He said, "If you were, what does 10x look like in your business?" And then he said, "Whatever it was." And then he goes, "Okay, now what are the things that would need to happen in order to make that a possibility?" And he said, "Well, these three things." He goes, "So now you, as a CEO of your business, need to go focus on those three things. And maybe you don't 10x your business, maybe you 5 or 6x it, but you're still significantly ahead of 2x." And I was just
Right.
like, "Oh my God, man!" Like, you know, even in today's day and age, like hearing that again at this point in time, it was just like, golly, man, I got to take a step back and think about, okay, well, we've been grinding the last 6 months. It's like, what's our 10x goal for, 2, 3, 5 years from now? And what are the things that need to happen in order for that to make it a possibility? And then it's like, okay, well, now Tim and Tim, this is what Tim and Tim are going to focus on because these are the things that are going to get us the 10x results when doing more work is only going to get result in 2x, more profitability or 2x growth or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And, the whole point of me telling that whole story is when we go to these types of conferences, whether it's one that we put on or one that other people put on, is it's a reminder of staying focused in your lane or on your path and not getting that shiny object syndrome and trying to get pulled into a million different places and trying to make money here and trying to make money there. Like it just doesn't work. I mean, yeah, I had a conversation yesterday and the guy's like, I started the same time you did. And I just did my first single family house last week. And he's like, but you have not. And I was like, well, it's because I mean, look, I have it right here. Like, I have my goals right here. I look at it all the time. I said, does it help me acquire these things? Yes or no? Yes, do it. No, don't do it. Like for me, that's a very easy concept to understand. And now I'm looking at changing it to like kind of, adjusting those goals for more 10x level stuff instead
Yep.
of, whatever I have on here. But it's the whole point of like, bringing back to center, focusing on what you're good at, what you want to make money at, what you identify as. And I clearly remember the point in time in my investment journey, because I know some people in here have never done a deal before, but there's a clear point in my investment journey when I started to identify as a multifamily investor and not the AVP of finance of this Fortune 500
Right.
company anymore. When that mental shift happened and I started telling people, oh, I buy multifamily apartments, even though I hadn't done one yet, that's when things really started to change because I set course for my new identity and I stuck with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I had a similar moment while I was still at my W-2 job. I was at a soccer
Hey,
practice.
coming up here, I mean, it's the 2-year anniversary. What on the April 1st, I think.
Yeah, April. But I was at soccer practice with my daughter, and I was in the parking lot, and one of the other dads was like, "What do you do?" And I was telling him what I was doing, and he made some comment about. He was like, "Oh, so it's like your side gig," and I was like, "No, like this is my business."
Right.
I'm like, "This is my business," and for whatever reason in my head at that point in time, and I'm like, "This is my business. Like this
Hmm.
is what I'm doing."
This is what I do.
Like it was the first time I'd had people say, "Oh, it's your side hustle" or whatever to me before. It was the first time that I was kind of offended by it.
Yeah. Right.
I
Were
was
you
like,
still working at your W-2 at the time?
yeah,
Yeah, right.
uh,
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the big aha moment there. It's like, wait a second. Like, this is what I do now. Now my W-2 job is my side hustle.
Yeah, my W-2 job's just a means to an end at the moment, like, and I think part of it was the mindset, right? Like I had decided a year and a half before that, like, I'm getting out of my W-2 by this time, and
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to go do, and I'm going to build this while I'm doing it,
This is
right?
how. This
Yeah,
is my vehicle.
right. And but it's kind of interesting when you have that mindset shift of like, no, because I tell people all the time, like, I left my W-2 before for a company that I was building, but I'd always had in the back of my head, I can always go back. I can always go back, right? And this time around, I was like, there's no going back.
We're
Come
in too
hell or high
deep now.
water, come hell or high water, I'm not
We're
going
we're
back.
way in too deep now.
But even when I was at my W-2 and I was like, I'm leaving in 6 months, like I was leaving, and in my head, I was like, there's no coming back. I'm not coming back to this.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Yeah, I remember
uh,
having that conversation of just like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna regret it for the rest of my life.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, and I'm glad. I mean, I had an aha moment at at this conference again, because every time it kind of comes back and it smacks me right in the face. And because I have been out of my W-2 job since September of 2021, so just over maybe about a year. It's a big year and a half now, or sorry, 2.5 years now. And I remember having the conversation to myself, was like, if I can't put any money into the account in 2 years, it was never meant to be. I was like, I just passed that period. And I was like, holy crap, like, look at all the stuff that I've done in 2 years that I didn't even know were possible, because I've been able to dedicate my time and energy and focus towards one goal instead of, shiny object syndrome being all over the place. And I have to say, a lot of that success has come from going to events and being surrounded with people that are doing what I want to be doing. And it's like that and you get this energy and like, yeah, like I'm going to keep pushing through. Like, they're going through hard things and they're going through hard things, but they're going through good things and they're going through good things, like everyone's in it. Right. And we're all kind of in the trenches together sometimes. And it feels invigorating, where it gives you that little extra boost of energy of just like,
yeah,
what? I needed that refresher, a reminder of like why I do what I do, or what I want to do what I do.
yeah, man. Regret's a powerful thing.
Mm,
Because what I think I heard somebody say one time. It's like, what's your worst fear? And the guy's response was being on my deathbed and saying, I wish I would have. And it
yeah.
is like, and I'm like, that's where it gets. I'm like, I never want to be at that point and say, man, I wish I would have done this.
Mm.
So
Take that risk, man. Do it.
yeah, get out there, get
Yeah.
out there. So
But all in all, I mean, it's a great time. I love reconnecting with friends and people that I've helped and people that have helped me. I mean, it's just really wholesome to see things go full circle. Where it's a give and take, and where at first you started out as like a mentor coach relationship, and now you're a peer relationship. Like, it just, things change over time, and perspective and respect and experience changes over time, and you can learn so much from the same people by just surrounding yourself with them, because
yeah,
everyone's going to have different experiences and learn different things at different times. And
yeah.
the power of the network, I mean, my god, I feel like if there's any beaten dead horse around here, it's grow your network. But like, it can't be anything but more true.
Yeah, and you know what? I know we're coming up on time, but you and I said something while we were at the event, and you just said something that reminded me of it. Being a giver,
Hmm.
like Jennings and Eden have kind of built their community around that.
Yeah.
And I'll even say this, like, so guys, when Tim and I go to these events and we talk, we don't wear making moves, right?
Mm-mm.
Because a lot of times these are put on by folks who have some sort of community. We don't wear making moves. We want to be respectful of the fact that we're walking into somebody else's community, right? And we're
Hmm.
not there to pitch our own. And Tim and I were very conscious about not doing that. Jennings got up and said, "Hey guys, in case you weren't aware, these guys have their own community." And he called out making moves. And I'm like, not a lot of guys would do that,
Yeah. I was
So
like, I didn't come here to sell anything, man. I mean, that's not my point of being here. The point of
right.
being valuable and giving value to people.
But
But
he
yeah, I
didn't,
did appreciate that.
yeah, he didn't care. He's like, they have a value over there, go talk to them about it. Right.
Right. It's
So
different value.
yeah. So all
So,
right.
all right. Well, thanks again. Everybody that we met in person, Dennis Russell, awesome meeting you in person finally. Thanks for everybody that showed up. I hope to see you guys in the future again soon, and don't quit. I know Tim and I we have been talking about doing the Porsche event again. Nothing is set in stone right now because our plates have been pretty full. But I think there might be a light at the end of the tunnel where we can start to focus on doing stuff like that again. But stay tuned for that. I mean, we had a ton of fun at the Porsche event, and I think the people that hadn't gone last year are going to want to go this year from all the content and videos and stuff that we put together. So I think it'll be a really good time. Again, we don't make money on these events. Like, the point is to bring value and be valuable and build relationships. So, stay
And
tuned
drive
for
fast
that.
cars.
Yeah, and drive, and I like going fast. So, Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Cool.
No.
All right. See y'all later. Peace.
You guys.